I'm here with Tali Gomez. She's the Executive Director of the Multilingual Department, and we're going to be talking about the personal recruitment. She's in charge of recruiting for the department and also for filling positions across the district. Hi.
Yes. Hi.
Thank you so much. So I have a few questions that we're going to go
Sure.
here over it, and the first one is, what does the district personal planning process look like, particularly when anticipating staff needs for the upcoming school year?
Sure. This one really depends on the position. The first one would be to looking at teachers, and that is really planning through a demographer. And so we work closely with a demographer firm and get the numbers that are projected for each school, and that's how we staff teaching positions. So there's a ratio of student to teacher for each campus. The difference is between levels, so like K through 5, and then also the difference there is whether they're a Title I campus or not. So that's really using a demographer and then looking at which grade band it is and what kind of campus it is. That's true for all teaching positions, whether it's bilingual or monolingual on a campus.
Okay.
And then if it is for support positions, that also depends on numbers. So like if it's a Title I position, they look at the number of students on that Title I campus, and that will make the decision of how much Title I funds are provided for that campus and how many positions it can support with. We staff for ESL and bilingual coaches, for example, and that is also based on the number of ESL students or the number of students in our bilingual program. So each area kind of looks specifically at those programs, and then for secondary, it's really based on course requests. And so we look, our kids make their course requests in about October. By January, we're able to look at course requests and begin staffing based on that. And as long as there are 15 students that have requested a course on a campus, then we try to staff to be able to provide that course so that students get the courses that they need or want to take.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Perfect. And how do you ensure that staffing decisions align with district goals and student needs? Which kind of basically you answered that question. It's going to be based on enrollment, basically, right?
Yes, and then I would say the student needs are looked at really a lot by coding. Mm-hmm. So the Title I is one of the ways that we support student needs. And then the other, we have state compensatory ed funds, and those support at-risk students, and so we look at the percentage of at-risk students on a campus, and they're given extra support staff based on that. So that is really how the staffing per student needs are addressed.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Then, so for attracting high quality candidates, what are some strategies, especially in these areas? Because I know bilingual and special ed, it's hard to hire.
Yeah.
What are some strategies that the district uses?
Mm-hmm. I can speak even more to the bilingual education one. So we have a bilingual recruiter and retention specialist in HR, which is a big benefit for us. Her role specifically is to find job fairs in universities that are producing more bilingual certified teachers, and then we go and recruit specifically at those locations. We also go to several universities in our area and connect with the students in their bilingual ed programs, so that we're trying to make that connection before the job fair even happens. We also have, this kind of touches on both the bilingual and special education, but we've created our own teacher certification pathway, which is called Quest.
Okay.
And everybody in that program is either seeking bilingual education, special ed certification, or ESL certification, because those are our hardest to fill. And so we are able to find people that apply and meet that criteria and have worked as paraprofessionals in our district. And then we help them go through getting their bachelor's degree and certification. So that's something big. And then the other piece that we are currently working on is working with students of our district who are in our PAL program or in our CTE program for becoming teachers. And we're already trying to recruit bilingual kids to join those programs so that we already have them on a pathway for teacher interest and certification in the future. So that's what we specifically do. And then on top of that, for special education, they hold a job fair just for special education applicants. So it's a specialized job fair for special education.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. Okay. And so can you briefly walk me through the selection from application to hiring
Sure.
process?
It's a little bit different depending on the level that somebody's applying for and the position. So for example, in our district, if you're applying for a district level position, the first step that has to be done is an online application has to be done, and then a resume screener has to be done. So you must create a resume screener and then go through the resumes of those who have applied, and then you can set the criteria of who is called for an interview, but you have to have a resume screener. Then everyone who is part of the interview or resume screening process has to have done training through HR on confidentiality and best practices. And then we have to have a rubric for our interview process. And then once we have interviews, then we check references. And as soon as those steps have been taken, then the candidate with the highest rubric and the highest references will be considered for that position. You can then make contact with the applicant and let them know that you would like to recommend them for hire. Once they have said yes, they would like to be recommended, then in our online software, we recommend them for hire, and then from there, HR reaches out with the actual job offer and all of the next steps for the signing the contract, the fingerprints, and all of that. If you're on a campus, you do not have to do the resume screening process.
Okay.
Sometimes you still do, just based on the number of applicants you have, but it's not a required step. But you would follow the rest of those steps from there. So the interview process, the reference checking, and the recommendations would take place similar to what you do at a department.
Okay, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
And then how is the compensation structure determined for teachers and staff in the district?
Mm-hmm. So the district did a fairly large study a year ago to gather information about structures of surrounding districts and then try to make sure are aligned. So there's a compensation structure that was designed based on like a competitiveness with surrounding areas, and then the board has to approve that compensation structure. And then every position has to fall into each level. So if a position is added or created, you have to find where it fits in that compensation structure and make sure it's comparable to other jobs and job descriptions in the area. But really that is set and approved by our board, and then we just have to make sure that every position falls in alignment with that structure.
Okay. By the board. Okay. And then what evaluation this system does the district use to assess teacher performance?
We use T-tests as our
Okay.
formal evaluation. Each campus has their own walkthrough form, so that is outside of T-tests, and that will be based on like campus initiatives. We have campus snapshots here in Plano, so they'll build their own walkthrough form dependent on what those initiatives are for their campus, and then they'll use that to help support the teacher throughout the year in a less formal observation, but then the actual evaluation system is T-tests.
The campus initiative, it's they created based on the needs of the campus data.
Yes, we have an instructional model as a district, and the instructional model has elements on it, and each campus decides what their campus snapshot will be, meaning they take elements from our instructional model as a district and they make their campus snapshot based on that, and those elements are chosen based on data. So it's part of their campus needs assessment process and tied together with their campus improvement plan. So they take those elements, they're taken from Robert Marzano's Science and Art of Teaching, and then they lift those up in the walkthrough form so that they are holding the teachers accountable for whatever their snapshot is.
Okay. So what is the process for addressing staff performance concerns that may lead to dismissal? What is the, I guess, the due process?
Yeah, so that can come from a few different things, the dismissal process. Some of that might just be overall performance concerns, so that would come from doing those walks or observations that I was talking about, and then you move towards the more formal T-test observation. Typically, if you start to see the concerns, then you'll do a T-test observation earlier. Like, you want to do it sooner than later so that you have time to put a plan in place to support the teacher's growth.
Like an improvement plan or something like that? Okay.
But you don't want to wait too long to do that, because you have to give teachers the amount of support and time that they deserve to show growth before you would be able to move towards dismissal. Then there are times when there's like one behavior instance that starts to lead to the dismissal, but at any moment that you start to have concerns that are worth thinking about a write-up, or thinking about a documentation plan, or even thinking about adjusting the T-test schedule so that you're there sooner, you have a human resources either director or coordinator who you are directly connected to, and you reach out to them and they really help you walk through each step of the way, so that you're sure that you are taking all the right steps in this process, because the dismissal process can go smoothly or it can really not go well. So you partner with human resources and really take step by step. Our human resources website, that's for inside PASD staff, has a certain area that's just for evaluating administrators.
Okay.
And you only have access to that if that's a role that you have. And then also there on that website, they have everything very detailed out with any, like all memos need to be written a certain way, and you can use their template to do that. So they really have a lot of tools already there for you. But even though those are available, they still ask, okay, you're going to use this template, write it up, send it to me first. HR will then look over that memo and make any corrections that might end up not being written the best way to lead towards this dismissal process. So they're really your partners throughout the process.
And that's to prevent any complaints, like legalities and stuff
Yes,
like that.
because
correct?
if you make a mistake in that process, typically it could lead to a grievance, or it could lead to not being able to dismiss the employee. And so you just want to be really careful that you're working closely with HR so that whatever the goal is, you get to meet it by the end of the year.
Okay,
Mhm.
perfect. Well, thank you so much.
Perfect
That's
timing.
all.